Breaking news, a student brings a dangerous element to school, which in turn brought out emergency crews.
The wife of an accused high school coach speaks out about the allegations he had sex with a student. Good evening, I'm Tanya O'Rourke in for Clyde tonight. We begin tonight with breaking news. Nervous moments at a local middle school today after a student brought in a container of mercury.
Right now, emergency crews are still probing Turkeyfoot Middle School in Edgewood looking for dangers. School officials say 7 students played with the mercury droplets. Their parents have been notified. The classrooms used by the kids were cleared and sealed off. Health and emergency crews were called in.
We had the students that came into direct contact. They've been checked out. The parents were called. They brought a change of clothes for them. So, yes, they were looked after.
Each child received a plastic bag to put over their shoes so as not to track it home. Officials will announce later whether classes will be held there tomorrow. And hold on to your wallets. Gas prices are up again, way up. The average for regular.
And then we had to go walk we couldn't go the regular route to the school buses.
Makes you think, oh my gosh, this could be pretty serious.
Meanwhile, school administrators don't know how long the cleanup will take. They'll use the weather alert system to notify parents. Levels inside the contaminated classrooms are at about 10 times below the levels where cleanup crews need to wear respirators. But even that is above the comfort level for many parents. Now, they want to make sure that this is all clear before the students come back inside. Keep it tuned here. We'll be first to let you know about that. Meanwhile, about the shoes, if your students have those bagged, don't take them inside. And they say don't wear them until you hear differently. We're still waiting on the EPA to make a determination about that. Reporting live where the news comes first, Brian Hemrick, News 5.
All right, thanks, Brian. Short-term exposure to mercury can cause lung damage, nausea, and vomiting. Long-term, you're risking brain damage, kidney damage, vision, and hearing problems. Also, mercury may cause cancer.
A guy who tried to beat a train across the tracks at Dixie Highway in Boone County.
Good evening. Clyde is off tonight. Turkeyfoot Middle School in Kenton County will be closed tomorrow. This comes after some students were playing with liquid mercury brought in by a classmate. It was spilled and hazmat teams were called in. 9 News reporter Jay Warren is live now at Turkeyfoot with the latest. Jay?
Well, Carol, you can see the EPA's incident command truck still behind me. They'll be back tomorrow to finish the cleaning. The decision to close school was made tonight to give those crews enough time to do the job well. Into the evening, members of the EPA Environmental Response Team were cleaning areas of the school. Josh Richardson saw the kids playing with the mercury this morning.
I was standing there, I was watching them, and one of the boys, they were going to put their finger in it, but then they pulled their finger out really quick before they even touched it, and it knocked the container on the floor, and the mercury went on the floor.
Rob Haney of the Kenton County School District describes the attraction.
They were playing with it, you know, as kids would do, and the fascination of it. If you know liquid mercury, it will bounce, and the droplets will, you know, bounce on a hard surface.
It got on their clothes and shoes and was tracked around to at least 3 different classrooms, even to offices. The entire school was closed. Kids went home, and emergency crews called in over a tiny amount.
Just like a little puddle, probably like this big.
But officials are worried about any amount.
It is harmful to the brain as well as, you know, the kidneys and other organs, so it's certainly nothing to play with, and we're taking it very seriously as far as the cleanup is concerned.
8th graders Shane Brewer and Emily Bregg described the precautions the authorities took.
In our 4th period, we were in 4th period, that was the last class of the day, they came in and told us they had to put bags on our feet, and we had to look like we were wearing space boots.
Brewer and other students looked to their teachers for answers.
We were all like, why would they bring mercury to school? And she was like, well, the bigger question is, how did they get it? Because it's illegal.
Haney explains why the kids wore their shoes home with plastic booties.
You really can't wash it off, so you're going to get it into carpet, and then it would vaporize and so on, and you know, we just don't want any further contamination.
Now, the school spoke to the students, and they have not told us whether any disciplinary action is forthcoming. Now, parents are asked if they want to, they can bring those shoes in the bags. The EPA will test them tomorrow to see if they're contaminated. And finally, school is set to open Monday. Carol?
Jay Warren live for us in Edgewood. Thanks. pilot error may be behind the crash of a cargo plane in Florence.
At room temperature, mercury is a liquid metal and can be deadly. Mercury also causing a problem at one tri-state middle school. Today, Turkeyfoot Middle School is closed while the EPA decontaminates that school. And News 5's Curtis Fuller is live at Turkeyfoot with the very latest on this one. Curtis.
Well, Michelle, as you mentioned, the school is closed and they've set up a unit here, and you will see people coming in and are actually bringing their shoes from kids yesterday who had shoes yesterday. They're having those shoes checked for mercury levels. We're told that many of them have checked out fine, and so they will just take their shoes back home. But I want to introduce you to a young lady. Her name is Lindsay Leach, and she actually reported this to the principal when she saw the mercury. Now, when you saw this, you knew that it wasn't a good idea to have this, huh?
Yeah, I saw it and it looked cool, but I knew right away that it wasn't good. And I asked her what it was, and she said it was mercury. And I'm like, that's poisonous, isn't it? And so I told my teacher, and he reported it.
It obviously had put a lot of people, made a lot of people nervous, but obviously you did the right thing. Now, had you known anything about mercury?
Not really. I just knew that it wasn't a good substance to have in a school, you know, to be playing with.
Well, her name is Lindsay Leach. She is 13 years old and very smart. I don't know if I would have been able to tell that, know the difference with mercury at age 13, but we're going to continue to follow up on this story all day. The school will remain closed today, and it should reopen by Monday, we're told. Reporting live where the news comes first, I'm Curtis Fuller, News 5.
Also this noon hour, it is the end of a 16-year fight over the care for a Northside cemetery.
Janelle?
Tanya, here's what's happening here this afternoon. The students are actually bringing their shoes that they had on yesterday back here to be tested. And to give you a picture here of just exactly what's happening, we have the mobile decontamination unit. Now, this line formed about 10 o'clock this morning. Now, the school district says a female student brought a small bottle of mercury to school, actually from home, and it somehow spilled on the floor, and it's believed students contaminated several classrooms and school offices. Now, the Edgewood police chief says he doesn't expect to file any charges because it isn't against the law to have mercury. The EPA says the students were given bags to wear over their shoes before they were allowed to go home as an extra precaution, but wanted to test the shoes today just to be safe.
Well, they tested their shoes. They had to keep them in bags so that we wouldn't contaminate other things, and then they sort of measured what was there and told us whether it was safe or not. So,
what did they tell you about your daughter's shoes?
They're fine. They're fine. She was a little worried because they walked up and down that hall all day long, so we're glad they're safe.
And back out here live at Turkeyfoot Middle School in Edgewood, you can see the back of the building here. The school windows are open right now. The EPA says that is part of the process, the decontamination process, opening those windows, and with the combination of heat and the cold air going in there, that's going to also help decontaminate this building from that mercury. And also, too, check with school officials a couple minutes ago just to see if they knew if there was going to be class on Monday. From what we're hearing, the word is still out on that. They say right now they have about 80% of this building totally cleaned up. It's going to take maybe another 48 hours to get the other 20% cleaned up and safe for the students. So for right now, word is still out on whether or not there's going to be class here. Tanya?
All right, Janelle, thank you. A local water plant operator has pleaded guilty to making false statements.
Is the last thing these folks wanted to do today, but they all said they'd rather be safe than sorry. A child's show and tell, you might say, with some mercury created a scare.
It really surprised me that a kid would bring something like that to school, you know, but what can you say? You know, shut the whole school down for this.
It may have shut down the school, but 13-year-old Lindsay Leach did the right thing when she told a teacher about her classmate's item of curiosity.
I noticed it, and it was mercury. I noticed that, and so I told it to my teacher, and he said, I don't have any mercury at the lab right now, and so he knew that a student had brought it in and that it wasn't a good substance to contain.
We're told the student had about an ounce of mercury and will not be punished. The school was shut down because, as the EPA indicated, there were elevated levels of mercury in the air throughout the school. The students were told to keep their shoes outside their homes and bring them back today to be tested. You can imagine the whole thing rattled parents' nerves.
A little bit, but we'll either get them checked or throw them away.
And that was Curtis Fuller reporting. Meanwhile, a reminder for you about mercury. It has been banned from most household products, but you can still find it in thermometers, barometers, and blood pressure monitors. Long-term exposure can cause damage to the brain, kidney, lungs, and a developing fetus. Brief contact can cause loss of appetite, fatigue, insomnia, and behavior changes.
There was also a mercury scare in the West End today. A hazmat team was called to the Metro bus garage on Bank Street.
Closed today for an extensive cleanup after a student's mercury spill. 9 News reporter Bill Price is live in Edgewood. He says the cleanup not only involved the school, but the students as well. Bill?
That's right, Brian. You know, that student's toxic spill of mercury yesterday apparently still ended up having students and parents show up here at the school today to get their shoes and sneakers checked for any mercury residue. Now, starting at about 10 o'clock this morning, youngsters toting bags with shoes that they wore yesterday were lined up outside a hazmat trailer to have their shoes scanned. EPA officials brought in special mercury monitors to make sure none of the youngsters was accidentally tracking any mercury back into their homes.
They've been at this for over 3 hours now. There's only been two pairs of shoes that were reported to have exceeded the levels that we would recommend that they not take those shoes back home and wear them in the house.
350, and she said contaminated was 10,000, so we came in very low.
How do you feel about that?
Good. Now we don't have to replace our cheerleading shoes.
Now, those cheerleading shoes can be expensive. But police and school officials say the student who brought the toxic mercury into school will not face any charges or penalties because there was no criminal intent. Now, if the school happens to pass a second mercury air test tomorrow morning, it's at that point that Kenton County school officials will decide whether to open Turkeyfoot Middle School on Monday. Of course, we'll let you know what they decide coming up tomorrow on 9 News at Noon Saturday with Janelle Walton. Carol?
Bill Price live for us in Edgewood. Thanks. Fifth Third Bank is suing a